Welcome back to Silent Sales Machine Radio. We are your co-hosts. I'm Brian.
And I'm Robin Joy.
And this is Coach's Corner.
Hey, everybody.
How's it going, Robin?
You know what? I am just so grateful today, Brian. I love working one-on-one with people. I love working in groups with people. I just really get so much in return for, trying to help people get started. I just love it.
It is pretty amazing, the opportunity that we have to be able to work so closely with people to help them see the things that they can't see and learn stuff along the way for ourselves as well.
The whole time we're learning about ourselves and about our business. And it's just a beautiful thing. And I'm so grateful to be able to do it.
Well, I came home today and you're like, I just had a couple of coaching sessions.
Yes.
Right?
Because they were so great. What did I tell you about them?
These are great. Like a lot of times when we're recording a podcast, we are a couple of days removed from a coaching session. Today happens to be one of those days when we're right on the heels of some. Yeah. And so some very inspired, animated, emotional conversation takes place in these calls. Yeah. And then we get to sit down and discuss it afterwards. Yeah. Which is how this whole podcast got started in the first place. Because, I would finish a coaching session and I'd come out and say, hey, so I had, so-and-so, and this was the question, these were the questions, and this is what I was suggesting, or we were talking about this topic today or whatever. Do
you have any ideas that I missed? Can we, talk about it? Anything and this is what happens. This is
just as a classic example. Yeah. I had a coaching client. I still have this coaching client. Uh-huh. Every time we get on the call, he has taken what we covered in the last session and put it into play, and he's got great progress. And I'm like, did you have any challenges with that? No. No, it went just like you said. Well, okay, how's your sourcing going? Oh, so sourcing's going great. Yep. You have any challenges with shipping? No. Yep. Shipping is going great too. And then I'm like, so where are your challenges? What's going on here?
Right. And go over that one again with me. Are you picking up on something that I have not learned yet?
So then I came out and I'm telling you this conversation, and I was like, I felt like I was going deep in my bag of topics to have, and out of that conversation was born the 7 Core Competencies series that we recorded a while back.
Absolutely right. I remember,
And so it just is almost a checkpoint for us to be able to talk, to be able to go and talk about all aspects of the business when we need to, and deep dive on any one of them to see where there might be challenges or how we can make improvements, right? So even though everything's going great, I didn't have any problem sourcing, I didn't have any problem shipping, shopping, whatever. Okay, great.
Here are some enhancements that we can...
Do you think that takes too long? Do you think that we've got room for improvement in there or whatever?
Does it meet your plan?
Right.
Did you have a plan?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me just say, if you're looking for that series that we did on the 7 Core Competencies, you can find it at silentjimdotcom. Go to the podcasts or /podcasts, and you can search now in the podcast to find what you're looking for. If you search core competencies, all 7 will come up, and you can go through those with us again. Yeah.
In fact, that's what we're going to be talking similarly about at the conference this year, right?
That's right.
That's stoked about the conference.
Yes, I can't wait for the Proven Conference. Last 3 days of May. 2 days before that, we get to do a live workshop for just a few people. I just get so fed is the best word that I've come up with lately. I get so much out of that just sets me up to go strong again.
We're rolling out a new program this year.
Yes.
At the Proven Conference called the Ambassador Program.
Yes.
Right? This was
brought to you by the Coach's Corner.
Brought to you by Coach's Corner. This is your brainchild.
Our brain, yeah.
Yeah, right? So it kind of came about sort of accidentally. I remember last year in the main room where the main... the
General Assembly.
The General Assembly room, right? When people are going in and out of that room, the door opens and the door closes. And when it closes, it makes noise.
Yes.
Right? And that noise is distracting,
for
those who are sitting in the back of the room or the middle of the room, and even the speaker sometimes, right?
Yes.
So
some of our coaches.
So Kip Sykes went up and he stood by the door and he kept it from making that noise whenever it slammed.
He took
and we
the
were
initiative. of doing
That's
that.
awesome.
That's right.
We should have more of that.
Right.
And so that was the sort of the seed for the ambassador program idea.
Yeah.
And what this is going to be this year is it's going to be basically a group of ambassadors. And these are leaders within the community who are going to be wearing a special badge to identify themselves as ambassadors. And they'll be stationed throughout the whole conference. And you, if you're a new person, your first time going to a conference, or if you've got just, maybe it's not your first time, but you've got questions, well, you'll be able to see an ambassador just about everywhere you look.
And if you don't meet anybody else, meet an ambassador. They're open, they're ready and willing and happy to meet you. So
the other thing that we're going to do is 1 hour before the General Assembly starts.
Each morning,
we're going to have a session for new attendees, brand new attendees, and experience. And
everybody's going to be invited.
Everyone's invited, right? And we're going to help you sort of decode what's going on for that day, what sessions might be of interest to you, depending on what type of business you are building. And we're going to have...
and we're going to have drawings, and we're going to give away prizes, and we might have a vendor come in and talk to us. We might have a leader or a speaker come in. It's going to be a fun time.
This is going to be awesome.
We're going to do some exercises.
Super informal. Let's have some fun before the formality starts. Not that there's a lot of formality here at this conference.
Just to be clear, we're not going to exercise like calisthenics.
Oh, yeah. Exercises.
Mindset exercises.
Yeah. Anyway.
Networking exercises. Those
this ambassador program, I think, is going to be
excited.
Really exciting and helpful. Like the whole goal behind this is for it to add value to the conference, for new attendees, for speakers, for anyone else that's there, for the vendors as well, sponsors, I should say. And there was a great post in the Facebook group today about the list of sponsors. What an amazing list.
Oh my gosh.
Like for me to be able to see Keepa on that list I was like, that feels like...
That just never happens.
Yeah.
Well, because we're members of an impressive group.
It is a pretty impressive group.
Yeah, it's a privilege. It's a privilege to be there. So yeah.
So this week, topic number one. Now that we've rambling for 10 minutes already, the first thing that we wanted to talk about was this sort of idea that we'd come across recently called the Pottery Paradox. Okay, you want to just take a minute and explain to us what the Pottery Paradox is?
So from what I understand, there was a study done, and they took a pottery class and they split it in half, right? I may be filling in some things for dramatic effect here, but you're going to get the idea. I know. I never embellish.
Being dramatic?
Anyway, so they split the class in half, and they tell one half, all of you work on one pot for the whole semester and make it the best pot ever, the most functional, the most beautiful, the most, polished pot that you can come up with. And they took the other half of the class and they said, all right, your job is to crank out pots. I'm going to grade you on how many pots you can put out. So what do you think happened?
Well, I know what happened. So
my first thought when I heard that was, well, of course, the one who's going to be able to work on the same pot this whole time.
Yeah. Is going to have the better pot.
What happened?
What happened was when they were at
the real study.
End of this semester or whatever the duration of this study was, they examined all of the pots for like how well it was made, the detail, the structure, did it fire without breaking, all the things that go into this. And the people, those students who were in the class who were tasked with making the most pots actually had the highest quality pot at the end of the period than the people who had the entire time to work on a single pot.
And why is that? Well, because they were cranking out pots. They were saying, here's how you finish a pot. Here's how you get a pot through this process. And they were getting it better at it and better at it, better. Each repetition was making them better. Their first few, I'm sure they were probably questionable.
Well, the key word that you said there was repetition. We talk about reps. When you're first starting out building an Amazon business, the reps are the most important part of this. And so that's why we say, even if you just break even, get like in the boot camp, right? In the Kickstart boot camp, you're like, just break even. Heck, even spend $20 for the experience. We're not planning on making
money on that one. Right? That's why we only do one. We don't spend much money on it.
Right.
But we go through the repetition of a whole process one time. So we have that under our belts. And we can go and then do that over and over and over again.
So what happens is the people who are making a lot of pots, well, they're getting a lot more feedback. Okay, that feedback is useful for them the time they go to make the next pot. Oh, well, that one, the sidewall blew out because it was too thin over there. So I need to just make sure that this next one is, more consistently thickness all the way around, right? And so they're getting this feedback every time. Oh, yeah, that one was good. It didn't break, but it also didn't have a smooth feel or whatever. So they get to go through the process far more times than the person who is perfecting a single pot.
So the other pot, they're going, okay, so what's going to be the most beautiful pot? What's the best design? What's the best, before they ever put their hands to clay, what's the best? What color are we going to make it? What style are we going to make it? Who's going to do which jobs? Who's be responsible for what? How hot is our oven going to be? And then at the end of that whole time, they have one pot, and that was their first rep. That's the problem with that. That was their first rep. The other side, they're like, let's just get some pots out.
Right.
First ones are going to be ugly, but we're going to learn from every single one, and they're going to get better and better and better. And that's what happened.
So if we take that same process and apply it to testing ASINs, there are two ways that you can go with this. Right? You can go I'm trying to find the perfect ASIN that is going to be sure to make me money, and then I'll never have to source another thing again in my life, right?
And I still have to test it after all of that.
Well, you still got to put it in the kiln, so to speak, and see if it blows up.
And if it does, you've wasted a whole semester
all that time. All that time doing that. And we see this all the time.
All the time.
How many people, if you're a lurker, I know there are a lot of lurkers in this community. They tune in, they listen, they read the Facebook post, they don't say anything. We've had several of those as coaching clients that have come in and said, like, yeah, I've been hanging around the community for a year, 2 years, 3 years. I finally decided to pull the trigger. But this whole time, the reason they never got started was
they were trying to find that perfect ASIN or that perfect brand, or, you're not going to get ungated if you don't make some sales. Right.
I mean, there's a whole other aspect
there's a whole other thing. Right. But this is like that target analogy that you've used over and over and over. You've got a target on the wall, and when you start saying, oh, well, I'm not going to go to the store. I'm only going to buy things that make me 80% ROI. I'm only going to test things that have, a certain number of sellers on them. I'm only going to, and you keep bringing.
Shrinking the target.
Shrinking the target. Each one of those is a ring of the target, and bring it down to where when you throw your first dart, you have to hit the bullseye. Well, if you've never thrown a dart before, trust me, the first time I threw a dart, I was lucky to hit the wall that dartboard was on, let alone the dartboard. I was not interested in a bullseye. I was just interested in not looking like a fool.
Well, there's the whole thing of like, you don't know the feel of the dart, the weight of it, how it flies.
You got to throw it to see what happens.
You have to practice a few times to see how it's going to respond to you. How the feedback that you're getting only comes when you're taking action, not when you're standing up there saying, well, if I hold my arm just this right way. And
well, you read all the books about it. You can read all kinds of books about it. You can watch people do it on TV. You can watch people do it in the dart tournaments. Like I've watched you play darts many times. You used to play in a dart league. And, I should know everything about it. I watched you play many, many times. I still couldn't throw a dart. To this day, I can't throw a dart. Now, I did do it for a while with you. We did it for fun. And there was a point where I got decent at it. I could play, play a game of darts with you.
Right.
Yeah. But then you find out also, what you find out is that every dart game, in fact, rarely are dart games in tournaments and people who really play darts, does it have anything to do with hitting a bullseye.
Right.
It's precision, but it's precision in hitting different numbers and different places on the board. And that's what you get good at if you learn to control a dart. The only way to learn to control the dart is to practice.
Okay, so if we're going with this dartboard analogy.
Okay.
So we got, and we're going to come back to the pottery in here eventually. But if we transition to the dartboard and we say the analysis that you would need to throw the perfect dart or to hit the perfect spot on the board is this very, a double 19 or a double 7 or a bullseye or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Some of the hardest spots on the board.
When you first said those words to me, I know now because I watched you, but I did not know what a double 19 was. It's not even actually 19.
Well, yeah, no, it's 19. It's like the outer ring of 19.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
Then there's the inner ring of 19, and then there's the bullseye. So the whole point of what I'm trying to say here is that if you are just trying to zero in on the double 19 or the 777 or whatever it might be, then you're going to be throwing a lot of, just like if you're trying to zoom in on the bullseye.
Yeah.
You're going to be throwing a lot of
Those
darts.
actually are smaller. They're longer, but they're smaller than the bullseye.
In terms of the width of the area. Yeah. So regardless, okay, what the point I'm trying to make here is that you got to throw a lot of darts. And so when we're giving people some framework to go and identify ASINs to test with, we're trying to give them the whole board, right? Not just a bullseye or a double 19 or a 777. Okay, we're trying to give them the whole board. So if they hit anywhere on the board, it's a win.
Right.
Okay, because you can literally spend hours and hours and days and weeks and potentially even months trying to find the perfect ASIN. Because if you just look at Keepa data, you will find that there are potentially thousands of different data points that you could consider before you actually pull the trigger on a test.
Exactly.
So, but what is the number one indicator of sales velocity, generally speaking, for every ASIN if it has this particular
sales rank drops?
Sales rank, number one, and sales rank drops.
Sales rank is number one.
Yeah.
Sales rank is number one for the category, right? Yeah. But it doesn't give me the velocity numbers that I need for anything. Okay, let's go back to what I was telling you a while ago. This client, really, really smart and really, just dotting all his T's. He didn't do anything wrong at all. But he said, what about sub 200 sales rank? I said, great. You find a sub 200 sales rank that you're approved to sell, that meets your testing criteria, you test it. You still have to test it. Yep. Okay? Yeah. However, how many ASINs have 200 sales rank in a given category?
200.
Exactly 200. So I'm not approved to sell half of those. Another, quarter or more of them don't meet my testing requirements. And then I'm left with maybe 25 to 50 ASINs that I can test. I
think that's generous. I think especially sub 200.
Yeah. Yes.
But yeah.
Depending on the category. But yeah, like even the test, it's probably more like you might find 4 or 5 that you can test.
Exactly. 4 or 5. And that still might be generous because generally speaking, we're looking at a usually single-digit percentage of all of the ASINs that we're looking at that are testable for us. And if you get into single digits, when you already ruled out half of them because you're not approved, that leaves 100. And if you can get to a handful, even out of 100, that's really good. Especially when at that rank, we're talking about sub 100 in this case, and those ASINs are super competitive. The most competitive ASINs on the platform.
Exactly. So why wouldn't I, while I'm trying to build my foundation, while I'm trying to put everything together, get some things ungated, be able to get some experience, why wouldn't I take the low-hanging fruit there that nobody else is going after, right? I need a sale. I don't need profit right now. I need a sale. I need a sale. And if I wait and narrow it down to the perfect ASIN before I send anything in, I got one shot.
Yep, one shot. That's right.
One shot. And if it works, good for you. Can you do it again? This is what you don't know. But if I test everything I can test without lighting $20 bills on fire, and I get some tests in there and make some sales, whether I make much profit or not, Amazon doesn't care. They don't know if I made any profit. They don't care if I made any profit. They care that I took care of their customer. And I do that over and over and over again, then I'm going to get some real practice. And by the time the same period of time is probably going to go by before that one really nice looking ASIN comes. But I'm either going to go with never having taken a shot before to hit that bullseye, or I have a pretty good idea of how to do this because I've done it a lot of times. I have a much better chance of getting closer to that bullseye.
Because you're throwing more darts, you're getting you get more reps, you're getting more feedback, and this is what it's about. And you said one really important thing there that I don't want to let it to slip under the radar without lighting $20 bills on fire. Yeah. Okay. And so one of the things that we teach as a framework to help you avoid lighting $20 bills on fire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that framework is a simple 3-step process. Mm-hmm. One is a velocity check. Mm-hmm. And the number one way to check for velocity is sales rank and associated sales rank drops. Can you dig deeper, especially on ASINs that don't have a sales rank number? Absolutely, you can, right? But this is the easiest way to check it. The second one is, can I avoid lighting a $20 bill on fire in terms of capital protection? So the first one is like, I can avoid potentially lighting a $20 bill on fire, but I don't want to wait 18 months to get that money back. I want to get it back in a relatively short amount of time.
My $20 bill is going to start eroding over time.
It does. It actually does.
And I want it back before it goes away.
Right. And so that's why we say 30 to 45 days, 4 to 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. This is like we're going to put that $20 bill in, and we'd like to have it back in 4 to 6 weeks from the moment we ship it out, right? Mm-hmm. Or from the moment it becomes available, actually. Mm-hmm. So then the second one is capital protection. Like, I don't want to lose money right out of the gate if I don't have to. And then the third one is potential profit. And really, we've had multiple discussions about even eliminating the potential profit one, as long as I have capital protection. And
velocity. If I have velocity.
Yeah.
And capital protection, I'm probably going to test it. The third step is just a matter of deciding where am I going to start that test, because I want to start it as high as I can justify.
As high as you can justify. Exactly.
Did I
say as high as you want?
Did I say I'm going to check the buy box and see if it's profitable?
No.
I did not.
Right.
Did I say I'm going to move my price if the buy box moves? I did not.
That's right.
Did I say the buy box has anything to do with my testing process? I did not. Now, I will look at the buy box and what it's doing to make my testing decision, but that's the last time I'll pay attention to that buy box. I don't care what happens to the buy box. I'm testing to see if my process works.
Right. So,
because I have a plan.
And here's the thing. The more ASINs that you can test, the more these guidelines it's all open to you as the business owner. But as you start getting feedback, you can start tweaking this for your business.
Absolutely. And you're going to.
And so, for example, there was this conversation that we talked about on a previous episode about an item that only has 13 sales rank drops, but Amazon's reporting sells at least 50 units a month.
Mm-hmm. It absolutely happens.
So then you can start experimenting, if you want to, with ASINs that have less than whatever you decide is your goal for sales rank for sales velocity.
Absolutely out there.
Because they are out there, right? What we're trying to do is keep people from getting in trouble with, because here's what. Tell me if this has ever happened to you, Ron.
Yes.
You sent in an item, and it's been 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, and it doesn't seem to matter how low you take your price, the item doesn't sell. Why does that happen? Because
there aren't enough eyeballs on it.
Because it doesn't sell enough.
It doesn't sell enough. It doesn't matter why.
Yeah, but usually the reason that happens is because it just doesn't sell enough. Doesn't matter how low you take your price.
No, I mean, it doesn't matter why it doesn't sell enough.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't sell.
Right. It just doesn't sell. Yeah. Right. So the idea behind this is to make sure that you're playing in a patch where we do have reasonable sales velocity. So that can't be an excuse why it didn't work.
And then remember, once you build a solid foundation, 75 or 100 ASINs that you're replenishing, consistently. So when some of them go away, you're refreshing those and keeping it at 75 or 100 and growing. Then you're going to have, that machine's going to be running, and you're going to have the balance and the capital to be able to go, you know what, I'll go now and I'm going to explore these ones that I have a good feeling about, but I don't have to worry so much about capital because I'm not taking it out of my pocket anymore. That's when you go do that. Focus on your foundation until you have a foundation built so that you can confidently do these other projects and not have to worry about it, killing your plan. Mm-hmm. Right?
Right. When you're most vulnerable, when you're first starting out in this business, you've been saying this a lot lately, the Amazon FBA business, even the Amazon FBM business is front-loaded, right?
It is. It's front-loaded. All the hard work's in the beginning.
Kind of takes us onto our next talking point here, which is the bamboo tree effect, right?
Yes.
It's front-loaded. The Amazon business is front-loaded, not unlike
every business is front-loaded.
Yeah, it is.
It just is.
There's a learning curve. There's a capital requirement. There's a lot of overhead
Every
required.
skill you build is front-loaded.
It's front-loaded. And so it's not like you're going to decide to do Amazon today. And I'm not trying to discourage anyone with this, but you're not going to start to do Amazon today and be making money by the end of the week. It just doesn't really work like that, right? It's not like eBay where you might have like a first edition of Tom Sawyer and you're going to put it up for sale and it is going to sell and you could make money that first month.
Yeah.
Right.
And we've done that.
Yeah.
But that's not really sustainable. Well, you got to have a system and a plan.
There are only so many copies of first editions of Tom Sawyer books,
You've got a system and have a system and a plan to find more things to sell on eBay, just like you do on Amazon.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
If I've got a convenience store on the corner, same thing. I got to test products to see if they sell. Then because based on information I have about them selling other places, and then see if they'll sell in my location or not. Because I might have different merchandising, or I might show it different.
So front-loaded, right? It's front-loaded. Yes, we have to invest a fair amount of our brain power, some capital up front to get this thing going, and we don't always see results right away.
And we definitely don't give ourselves credit for the work when we're doing, the progress that we're making.
Oh, we don't, because we expect it to happen now, right? There's no delayed gratification approach to this. Well, I put in $100 last week. Or I put in $100 3 weeks ago. Where is that money?
Yeah.
I want that money, right? Mm-hmm. So in this case, to compare this to the bamboo tree effect.
Okay.
A bamboo tree, when you plant one of these, and I don't know how you plant it, if it's like a piece of original bamboo, if it has a seed or whatever, but you put it in the ground, and guess what happens for the first 4 years?
4 years.
4 years.
Not a single thing above ground happens.
Not one thing that's visible to us happens.
No shoots, no leaves, no stalks, no nothing. However, there's a network of root systems building very, very strong as the foundation, if I may say, for bamboo tree. And then what happens?
Yeah, and then
4 years.
After 4 years, then in the first year, it grows like 80 feet. Not the first year, the fifth year, it grows like 80 feet. And then the second, or within a short amount of time, it grows another huge amount after that, like 100 and some feet or whatever.
It happens all at once. It pops.
This is what success looks like to many other people. Oh, you had overnight success. And I've heard Jim Cockrum talk about this before. Oh, it looks like you get on the podcast. Yeah. And now I'm doing 30,000 a month, and I got 20% margins and all this. But don't forget, right? There was probably 6 months, at least 6 months before that, where all of the roots were going down, and there wasn't, if there was anything that was showing on top, it wasn't much. And then it happens.
And then boom, it pops.
And this is what you're talking about when your replenishables really start to outnumber your tests, is when you start seeing that thing going up.
Right, but that takes a minute, because I've got to find the item. I've got to purchase it, maybe wait for it to be mailed to my house. I've got to package it.
Yeah.
And then I've got to send it to Amazon. So we're already talking 4 or 5 weeks here. Amazon may send it to another warehouse. Now we're 6 weeks into it. And you say up to 12 weeks even, it could be before you see a sale on that. We're then going to do a 4-week test. It's going to be a minute before we get the feedback. Okay?
Yeah. Now we're going back to the pottery analogy, right?
Right. But if I keep that, if I fill that pipeline while I'm waiting for that first sale, then when I start making sales, I'll keep making sales. And look at that, I'm making a system where I can get shipments in every week, every week, and I'm testing. And then I start seeing the replenishments outnumber my tests. And now I'm starting to make money. I'm starting to make actual profits. And I have enough of what we call the law of averages that I can make a small change to make a big difference in my whole picture.
Right. Now, one word of caution here I just want to throw out.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want everyone to be careful if you're new and you're considering starting this business and you've got a chunk of capital that you want to put into the business. My advice, okay, I'm not trying to be preachy here, but my advice is to not drop all of that in the first few weeks before you start getting feedback from Amazon. Take a more measured approach to this and do small, because we need to start getting that feedback, because as confident as you are, I can guarantee there's going to be something that you didn't plan for, that you weren't aware of, that is going to go, oh, I wish I'd known that when I first started. Oh, I wish I'd known that on my 4th shipment instead of my 8th shipment. I wish I'd known that, whatever. So if you're doing little tests every single week and you start to get that feedback from Amazon every single week, and it takes some time, as Robin was saying, for it to, get the line saturated. It's like the old water pump we talk about all the time from the well.
Get it primed.
You got to prime that. You got to pump like 5, 6, 7 times before anything starts coming out, right? That's kind of the way it is with your shipments as well. So you don't want to waste all of you don't want to peak too soon, right?
Right.
That you take a measured approach to this so that you can start getting feedback and make corrections. Then when you do actually feel confident with the feedback that you get, then maybe that's the time to get more aggressive with it.
And that should not be interpreted to say, send something in and wait till you're completely done. Keep sending things in. Just don't spend all your money in your first shipment. Spread it out over 8 or 10 shipments, and then you'll be much happier with your results and the effect of any mistakes that might be happening in there until you get more confident. And I said this in Kickstart last night, and I think it's very important for us all to remember. We're not in school trying to get an A on a paper, trying to make sure we get all the right answers so that our teacher gives us an A. It doesn't work like that. Mm-hmm. The more we study, the better chance we have at taking the test. This is not a test of our knowledge. This is a test of markets and processes and frameworks. So sometimes it's more like an experiment than a test.
Absolutely. That goes back to the pottery thing, right?
Right.
It's not, we're not trying to make the perfect pot on the first shot. We're not trying to get an A on this test.
We're trying to go through a lot of repetitions so that we know when we make a pot, we know how to make a pot. We know how to get it through the whole system.
And that is part of the culture of a capitalist society where you're given the grace to go fail.
Yes.
And make corrections and get multiple iterations and multiple reps and all that stuff so that you can start learning from that, so that when you do something and you fall down, you get back up and you make corrections.
Yeah. Yeah. And this brings me to another thing. You've been sending me some great stuff lately. Mm-hmm. Preparation trumps planning every time. So at the risk of being long here, I tell you, make a plan. If you don't have a plan, and you're bouncing around between this advice and that advice, and you get this advice and that advice in several different places, but nobody's walking you through your plan, you're not applying that to something you've already established, you got to get a plan. Because you can bounce around all of us have different ideas of what you should do and when you should do it and how you should do it. There aren't rights and wrongs. Does it work with my plan? Do I have a plan? You need to get a plan, right? At the same time, you got to plan for something happening to your plan.
This is preparedness.
You have to be prepared. So before a shipment gets lost at Amazon, you can't find it.
Yeah.
Decide what you're going to do when a shipment gets lost.
Exactly.
Before you get an IP claim, decide what you're going to do about it. Before you get a refund, plan on what you're going to do in response to that. And if you can get good at that, making the decision when you're not in the emotional situation, then you know what to do when you're in the emotional situation. Doesn't mean your emotions don't happen, but it's kind of like when you're at a bar and deciding whether you're going to drive home or not after you've had 3 or 4 drinks. No. That's not a good time to make decisions.
Well, yeah. That's
in the midst of the emotional feel of somebody returning your product for no good reason is not a good time to make a decision about how that's going to affect you.
And one of the reasons that we put the 4-week test framework out there as well is so that you'll be able to make a decision based on how things go, so that you're prepared. If it sells, you know how to respond. If it doesn't sell, you know how to respond. If it doesn't sell for a long time, you know how to respond. And it's not an emotional decision.
These things are set up in your testing setup. You decide that before you send anything in, what you're going to do, what results could happen, what your response to each of those results is going to be, and then you just do it, regardless of how you feel. Because feelings...
They cloud you.
Yeah.
They cloud your judgment.
They do.
Yeah.
And they're not necessarily true.
Right.
They're not necessarily real. Right? Just because you think something I hate to break it to you, Brian, but just because you think something doesn't make it true.
Oh, okay. You mean like that I wear the pants around here?
You don't even think that.
Yeah. Yes, I do.
Whatever that means, wearing the pants. But yeah. Okay, all right, you got me.
No, so I love the preparedness discussion because I was having this conversation with you a lot this last football season. You don't know, I'm a big football fan.
If you haven't noticed.
I was having a conversation last night. The last 6 years, I've watched the least amount of football because I've been focused on our business.
Yeah.
And
it's been fun. It's not like you've been beating yourself up.
No, it's not like I have.
You haven't been depriving yourself.
I did it by choice.
Yeah.
Right. That doesn't mean I don't enjoy football less. It just means I haven't been watching as much of it. Right. Mm-hmm. So this season I watched a little bit more than I have in years past.
Well, the Broncos did a little better this year.
Maybe a game or two a week as opposed to before, before the entrepreneurial bug really kicked in and it was a Sunday, 2 Sunday day games, a Sunday night game, a Monday night game, a Thursday night game, sometimes a Saturday game, right? And how much time was I spending doing that? But I got a lot of enjoyment out of it. So, it's just that I didn't want to do it because it was about discipline. I did it because I was reprioritizing the things that I enjoy doing.
We make time for what we want to do.
So I know a long way for me to get to the reason I'm not a Detroit Lions fan. I'm not a Detroit Lions fan. Okay.
Our daughter-in-law is from Michigan, so we hear a lot about Detroit.
But one of the things that I did watch in the off season, or as the season got started 2 seasons ago, was the NFL behind the scenes show that's on HBO about where they got the coach and the players and they're all
making a plan for their year.
Right, and that coach Dan, sorry, can't come up with his last name right now. He prepared his team for all the scenarios. And that's why I was so convinced that if they didn't go to the Super Bowl, they were going to get very far. And that's exactly what happened. And I still think that they have a chance to do it all next year. There was a scenario that maybe they didn't plan for or they didn't respond the way that they thought they would or the way that they planned to respond when a certain scenario came up. But they're planning for when they get down 24-0. They're planning for when it snows 6 inches and it's supposed to be sunny. They're planning for when their starting quarterback goes out. They're planning, and so that when that happens or if that happens, they are prepared. They know exactly how they're going to respond.
They don't have to come with a plan in the moment.
Right. They know exactly how they're going to respond.
Yeah.
And that's what you can do as a business owner. Number one, you got to want to win, I think. And number two, be prepared. Prepare yourself for the potential scenarios that are going to come up. Now, it doesn't mean you plan for every last thing.
No,
you just don't have the time
kill yourself planning either.
Right? But you'll learn. You make a you make a basic framework for your scenario planning that you're going to know that you'll be prepared for how to respond when those scenarios come up. And you know what's going to happen?
Campbell.
Some of them are going to pop. Dan Campbell. Yeah, you're right. Something's going to pop up that is not on your plan. And you're going to go, okay, but you're going to handle it in the moment. And then maybe you'll say, well, next time we'll handle it this way.
And that's experience.
And that's experience. But now you've got that built into your framework as well.
Right. We have to learn not to avoid obstacles, but to overcome obstacles. Because I've said it a million times. I used to work in IT security, and I can make your network secure. Just unplug that computer from the internet, take it off of the network in the office, and you will be completely contained, and you will get no viruses from bad actors out there. It won't happen. You won't be able to do business, but you'll avoid getting a virus from out in the wild somewhere. Well, that's not really the answer. The answer is, when I do get a virus, what am I going to do about it? Yes, I want to put things in place to avoid a virus, but it's going to happen, right? So what do I do when it does happen? Make a plan before it happens so that you're not making decisions under stress.
Yeah.
Right? All right. Do you have we've got a long way, and we're very excited, and thanks for listening to it, indulging us. That's the word I want today, because we're just having a fired up day. Thanks for sharing.
Yes, I do have a quote. Thanks for asking.
I was just about to ask you, Brian, do you have a quote for us today?
I do have a quote, and I think it's so applicable to what we were talking about today.
Yeah.
This quote comes to us from Thomas Edison. Many of life's failures are people who do not realize how close they were to success when they gave up.
Yeah.
And this reminds me of the cartoon thing that we've seen where the guy's like with the pickaxe, he's like digging for the gold and he gives up when he's like this far away from it. Like you were
he's
talking
got like
about a
2
minute ago.
pickaxes left and he decides to sit down and have lunch and polish the ceiling. Oh, okay, well, nothing's happening, so I'm going to walk back out of the tunnel.
Well, there wasn't anything in here, so I'm going to go try somewhere else.
And he had like 2 picks to go and he would have had the diamonds.
Yeah, so
or the gold or whatever.
And just relative to the bamboo effect and all that kind of stuff, know that even while those weeks, months, years that you've been sort of hanging out, hiding out, observing in the community, all that is really helping you to build roots. But the preparedness, I mean, the experience that you'll get from building this business, it is front loaded. It will bear fruit, or it will grow a big bamboo if you keep at it.
But you got to feed those roots first.
That's right.
Yeah. All right, Brian. I'm very excited about the Proven Conference.
I know, I am too.
That's our next big trip, and I'm very excited.
You know what we're going to tell people when we see them at the Proven Conference?
We're going to say, let's go find some more ASINs.
Test more ASINs.
Test more ASINs.
All right. Let's go do some testing.
Let's do it.
Talk to y'all later.
Bye-bye.
Hey, before I let you go, thanks for joining us today, but I've got a couple special guests I want to spend a couple minutes with. I've got Jeff Schick and Leah Maudlin of jeffschick.com. Of course, you've heard us talk about them before. They are our favorite policy and legal experts for all things Amazon, Walmart, for your e-commerce business. Hey, what do you guys got for us today?
So we want to talk about myths in the Amazon world. And so there's one really common myth that I wanted to talk about, and I'll let Leah lead it off with what it is, that myth that we keep hearing.
Yeah, of course. We do a lot of consultations about people asking questions about their cease and desist letters. And typically their common belief is that they can just throw them away without another thought, without thinking of the potential harms that could follow by ignoring them.
Right.
Exactly.
First sale doctrine rules. I'll just throw it in the trash. I'm allowed to sell this because I bought it, right? All right. What's the pushback there?
Or this came from another seller, even though it's clearly on law firm letterhead with a postmark that matches the city where the law firm, letterhead is based out of. Yeah. But somehow it came from another seller. But that's another myth too. But yeah, we just want to talk about, how it is important to really think about these, because they are legal documents. You're getting a letter usually from a brand or a lawyer. And a brand can send a cease and desist letter as well. That doesn't have to come from an attorney. It can come from the brand. It can come from a sales manager. It can come from a sales rep. You could even get a cease and desist email, like an email that comes from one of your wholesale reps telling you, hey, we saw you bought these products and our vendor reached out to let us know you're not allowed to sell them online. That could constitute a cease and desist letter. But the biggest problem that we see these days is the after effects of ignoring them. So we've had sellers get sued from ignoring cease and desist letters. We've also had sellers who get their accounts shut down because some brands turn to self-help measures. And so, for instance, they might go and file a confirmed counterfeit complaint, even though it's not true, against a seller because they sent them a cease and desist letter and the seller wanted to keep selling the inventory. So a lot of times, we always try to stress for our clients to remove emotion from the discussion and think about it just in a dollars and cents perspective. How much do you stand to make from continuing to sell this brand? Are we talking about a brand? I talked to one seller the other day. He makes $40,000 a month in profit selling one brand. They send him a cease and desist letter. Well, in his case, he's opting to ignore the letter and keep selling because he makes enough money from it that it makes sense for him to take the risk. I have another seller who received a cease and desist letter. They do $6 million a year in revenue. They ignored it. They got a counterfeit complaint. Their account was shut down for 2 weeks, cost them $500,000 in lost revenue and they had 2 units with $4 profit potential. So they gave up $500,000 in order to still not even sell the remaining 2 units that they had, which would have netted them $4. So really trying to think about these things from a perspective of dollars and cents. Does it make sense to fight with this brand and keep selling it? Or is it better just to go find another ASIN because there's millions of products that you can sell on Amazon?
That's right. So many brands that just don't care. Move away from the grumpy brands is what I call them. And, you can win those battles maybe, but is it worth the battle? And you gave us 2 great examples. In one case, maybe worth the battle. The other case, definitely not worth the battle. So there's nuance here. Well, excellent advice, but don't just throw it in the trash. That's why we have you guys on retainer, jeffschick.com, for a few dollars per month. We send you all this stuff when it comes to us, and you can tell us. Most of the time you do tell us, throw it in the trash, but a lot of times there's action that's required. And that's why it's good to have a policy legal expert on your side. Leah, good to see you. Jeff, great to see you guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate your great help around here. jeffschick.com, great sponsors of our show. Be sure to check them out. We'll see you guys next time, okay?
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening to this great episode of Silent Sales Machine Radio. We have a very quick announcement that you don't want to miss right now.
Does anyone out there ever feel uncertain when choosing an ASIN to test? Like, it's ambiguous and you're not really sure.
Yeah, or like you have to stand on one leg on the second Tuesday of the first week of the month if the moon is in retrograde.
Right. And hold your mouth right. You got to remember to hold your mouth right. Then you might possibly
consider testing that ASIN someday, maybe.
Right. Sometimes Keepa seems overwhelming. Like it's got so many data points. What if I'm missing something? I'm afraid I'm missing something, so I don't want to pull the trigger. Right?
Yes. Well, we host a 2-day workshop that will demystify the process of building a predictable, scalable, and sustainable book of business on Amazon.
Yeah, it starts with a pre-flight inspection of a listing. So you can answer the question, should I go any further with this ASIN or do I need to move on?
If you get past that, we're going to show you how to apply 3 simple yes or no questions that will help you decide whether to pull the trigger or not. Yeah. Like, is this even a good ASIN to test?
Right. And if you do decide to test it, we'll help you implement a framework for a 4-week testing process. And this process is clear and methodical, and it'll tell you whether you should replenish that ASIN or not.
Now, in these 2 days, we're going to roll up our sleeves and we're going to practice how to apply these critical concepts together. It's intense, it's focused, and it's packed with frameworks, quizzes, and actionable information that really is going to stack the deck in your favor when finding your first 100 replenishable ASINs.
Or your next 100 replenishable ASINs.
Yes, I love it.
Yes. You're going to leave with a roadmap to create your foundational book of business over the next few months.
Our next workshop is May 27th and 28th in Orlando, Florida.
Yeah, but seating is limited. It's an intimate setting, but you'll be able to ask all of your questions, plus you'll hear all the questions of the other attendees.
Yeah, this is fun, dynamic, educational. It's a great experience where you will get to meet and work with other people who are doing the same things that you are with similar goals. Mm-hmm. Imagine how you would feel when you get back home after the workshop and you're feeling transformed from unsure to certain, from cautious to confident, from overwhelmed to empowered.
Right. Yeah. You don't have to stand on one leg anymore and hold your mouth right. Just making sure, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right. So if you would like to feel that way, go to provenamazoncourse.com/100. That's provenamazoncourse.com/100. And we look forward to seeing you there because we're inspired by the accomplishments of others.
We're passionate about helping others reach their goals.
And we're committed to sharing the keys to success that have been shared with us.